It's the Big E Sports Extravaganza.
It's a tradition.
Your weekly destination for all things going on in the sports universe. We don't just talk X's and O's. We go beyond them. Bringing you some of the most engaging guests from around the nation. Fasten your seatbelts.
It's showtime.
Now, here's your hostess with the mostest, Elissa Walker Campbell.
Elissa Walker Campbell, welcome back to the Big E Sports Show. The PGA Tour is in Florida this weekend, and that means one thing, the infamous bear trap. Joining us now to break it all down and talk about the most demanding three-hole stretch on the tour is PGA professional, acclaimed instructor, and golf analyst, our very own Larry Miller. Hello, Larry.
Well, hello, good morning, and we're just getting into the real great beginning of golf season here with the Masters coming up, and it's going to be an exciting year as usual, and even more so now with all the great young players. So ready to talk about it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking about the Masters, but at the forefront of my mind is let's talk about PGA National and what makes the bear trap one of the most feared stretches on tour.
Well, because there's no margin for error. You know, when you get to those holes, it really illustrates and epitomizes the idea of playing for the middle of the green. You know, it's something that I've always, throughout my career, and I've watched the great players do the same thing, but the middle of the green is never bad. And I don't care where the pin is, it's never bad.
Yeah.
Because you can look at any green and just find the geometrical center of it. If you're there, you've got a makeable birdie putt, no matter where the pin is. And so, especially on holes like the bear trap, I mean, you just cannot go for a flag. It's insane. It's not like basketball, where you get the ball in your hands and the only thing you're looking at is the basket. But on those holes, on holes like that, and it's not just a bear trap. A lot of courses have demanding holes like that. But when you get holes like that, you're not looking at the flag. You're looking at the middle of the green. And the players that end up at the top of that leaderboard in this tournament are the ones that play smart. They're not seduced by, even if they have a 9-iron or a wedge in their hand and the pin's, near the water's edge and the wind's blowing a certain way, you're not going to see these people go for that flag no matter what. They know that pars on those holes are good and that you're going to gain strokes on the field if you make pars on those holes. So my idea and my suggestion is when you face a hole like that with really big trouble everywhere around the green, that you just disregard the flag stick and you just look at the middle of the green and try to hit your shot there. And even if you miss it a little bit, you've got some leeway left or right or long or short. And you're still going to be somewhere on the putting surface. And even if you make a bogey, you're not going to have a disaster.
Former PGA pro Larry Miller with us this weekend on the Big E Sports Show. And let's talk about PGA National because what kind of player typically succeeds on this particular course?
Well, it's not so much the power factor on that golf course. It's more precision. It's not quite as precise as, say, Sawgrass, with those extremely small greens. But it is precise in the sense that there's trouble, lots of water, trouble everywhere. And power is really not that much of a factor as it is on most courses on the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour has gotten to the point, and we're going to talk about Chris Goddard, but guys like him that can hit it 340 yards on most courses, that's a huge advantage. Well, that's not really an advantage on this golf course. This golf course this week is more about avoiding, trouble and avoiding double bogeys. And it's about making pars and just let birdies happen. Well, you can't force things on a course like that because you're going to end up with penalty strokes. You're going to end up with, shooting 72 or 3 or 4. Instead of in the 60s. And so it's more about placement of shots. It's more about club selection off the tee box, not necessarily driver, on a lot of holes.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to find a safe landing spot in the fairway, no matter what club you need to do that with, and then the middle of the green.
Yeah. PGA National is what I hear you saying is that patience wins more than aggression.
That's right. That's right. Patience, perseverance. The 2 P's of winning golf: perseverance and patience.
It is round 2 for PGA National. Were you surprised yesterday to see so many early low numbers? I mean, I know the course conditions are always in pristine shape, but I mean, the winds were really picking up in the afternoon.
Yeah, the wind picked up, but there were a lot of comments about the ryegrass that was planted, and it's made the course, a little bit more of a target practice where you can just throw darts, up on the greens, as opposed to a really hard surface that's, 13 or 14 on the stimp meter, and where even good iron shots bounce before they spin. On greens like they're playing right now, the ball's, it's like throwing a dart. It's just going to stick where it hits. And so but again, that lends itself very well to playing to the middle of the green, because the ball's not going to run off, to the side bunker or to a back bunker or something. If you're within 10 yards of your distance, shooting for the middle of the green, you're going to be just fine. And so I think the course conditions have really allowed the scores to be low like that. But if the wind picks up and the course will play a little faster as the week goes on, then you'll see the scores stabilize.
Well, at the top of the leaderboard yesterday, of course, was Austin Smotherman. But how good is it to have Brooks Koepka back?
Oh, it's good for the game. He's one of those personalities that people love to watch. And besides being a great player, I mean, look at the majors he's won. And I think it's taking him a little time to get back in the swing of the PGA Tour after having played, what I call exhibition golf, the Live Tour, where they play 3 rounds and there's no cut and there's really no pressure because everybody makes a lot of money. And so now he's back in the pressure cooker. And the other thing is, since he's been away, you've had this influx of all these great young players coming up. And so now it's not as easy. And it's going to be hard for him to get back to the status he had.
Well, one of the great young players you're talking about, multi-time winner, that is Chris Gotterup. And just what has he meant to the PGA Tour?
Well, he's an exciting player because he hits it so far. I mean, I don't know, he's one of the top 2 or 3 distance guys in the game easily. And, I knew we were up, if you remember, we were up at the regionals at Whispering Pines.
Oh, yeah.
Not the regionals, it was the Big 12 championship at Whispering Pines, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And, Chris was still playing at Oklahoma. And I remember being on the driving range with Steven, and we were kind of next to Gotterup, and Gotterup was hitting drivers. And they had a big net at the back of the range, and every player was hitting drivers, and they would bounce into the net. Gotterup was flying the ball up in the top of the net. I mean, he was a level above everybody else distance-wise. But then what really impressed me then about his game, and I could see what was going to happen down the line after I saw this, but on the last hole at Whispering Pines, I remember him, he hit a huge drive, probably had a 9-iron or wedge to the green. And he had the touch and finesse. He flew that ball up within 8 feet of the hole, and it just stopped right there. And I said, boy, this guy's not only got the firepower, he's got the touch. And so now he's proving that, on the tour, he's getting better and better. And with his distance and his finesse, he's going to be something else to watch.
We are so glad you're with us this weekend on the Big E Sports Show. Larry Miller, our regular guest on the program, is joining us, former PGA Tour player. We've hit on Chris Gotterup. Let's talk about Scottie Scheffler. Now, on his last couple of tournaments, he's had a little bit of a slow start. What do you think's going on there?
It's kind of like, it really reminds me completely, 100% of Jack Nicklaus, when, he would finish, he as everybody knows, he won 18 majors, but he had something like, 26 or 28 second and thirds. And every time he didn't win, the media wanted to know what's wrong with Jack. Why is he not winning? Or if he finished 15th in a tournament somewhere, gee, is he in a slump? What's going on? And so when somebody is that dominant, like he was and like Scheffler is right now, when they are that dominant and they don't win, or they're not second or third or fourth, people wonder, gee, what's wrong? I don't think anything's wrong. I just think that the nature of golf is that you're just not going to play your best every week. I don't care who you are. Nicklaus didn't do it. Woods didn't do it either. They didn't. Woods' winning percentage was something in the 30s or low 40s, I think. Nicklaus the same way. And Scheffler, it might even be higher than that right now. But I don't think there's a thing wrong with him. I just think, maybe some weeks he's a little tired, and he just doesn't have he doesn't have the will that he has when he's fresher. It could be that, but I don't see anything wrong with his ball striking. He just might not be making as many putts when he finishes 8th or 10th or 22nd. It might just be that he's having 30 putts or 31 instead of 27. It's probably that simple, or else he's just a little tired and fatigued. But, he's probably going to win. I don't know. I bet he wins 7 or 8 times this year, and maybe 1 or 2 majors. I think that's going to be his year again. But I never thought that after Tiger Woods' era was over, I never thought anyone would ever dominate golf again like he's doing right now. But he's doing it. And it's amazing when there's so many great players to have one person be that good, better than most. Anyway, I think he's just fine.
It is our final weekend in February, and the Masters will be here before you know it. You mentioned Tiger Woods. Do you think he's going to play in this year's 2026 Masters?
Well, he sure wants to. He loves that place, and he's dying to get out there and compete. That's in his heart. To be a competitor. And, if he's at all physically able, he's probably going to give it a try, whether it works out or not. I expect him to give it a go. I think I think otherwise he would have already said this is not going to happen. Uh-huh. So I'm expecting him to tee it up at Augusta.
Always a true pleasure when we have the opportunity to catch up with former PGA pro, and that is the great Larry Miller. Enjoy this spring weather. It's already here, and we look forward to another conversation. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, it was great talking, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.